Hi, my name's Thete and I've been trying out professions in the Legion beta. In this video I'm going to take you through the blacksmithing quest that can be completed while levelling. So in Legion you learn patterns effectively by questing, certainly initially at any rate. And the first quest you will get when you get to Dalaran from the blacksmithing trainer is to obtain 10 laystone ore. This is the most common type of ore in the Broken Isles. Now of course a lot of blacksmiths are also miners, but what if you're not? My main is a blacksmith but not a miner. I usually level up a miner second. However, don't worry that you're going to have to either do that or splash out a lot of gold at the auction house to keep yourself funded. To complete these quests and to obtain the basic patterns at the very least, you will only need those 10 laystone ore as well as 10 of a particular type of herb called foxflower later on. After that, all of these leveling quests can be completed without any additional materials other than those supplied to you on the quest itself. So as with all of the production professions, you take your materials back to the trainer on Dalaran, who's supposed to be the master but doesn't quite understand the materials on the Broken Isles. There's a bit of a role play where he tries to use these materials to craft something. It goes a little bit wrong. You'd think you were doing goblin engineering or something, and then he decides that you need to go out and find some examples of craftsmanship from the Broken Isles itself, and he sends you off to one of the zones. Now it's worth bearing in mind the way all of these professions work in terms of the quests is you will be sent to each of the 4 leveling zones to do a couple of quests. You can do them quite easily. You could decide if you wanted to forget about quests on the Broken Isles in general and rush through them all. You may decide to do them as and when you're leveling. If you want to do that, of course you could use the order in which you get these quests to determine the order in which you'd like to level up on the Broken Isles itself. Hopefully by the end of this one you'll be able to make an informed decision as to what you want to do. For the first couple of quests you'll be sent to the Naga-infested ancient elf ruins on Asuna. Here you'll be asked to obtain a couple of random drop items from a Naga, as well as a drop item from a sentinel in some of the elf ruins. So once you've completed these quests, you go back to the blacksmith on Dalaran, who wants the memory core translating, takes it around various people around Dalaran, including the sarcastic gnome scribe. And then you get another quest, this time for the aforementioned 4 foxflower, for which you will need the services of a herbalist or to go to the auction house to collect it. You just need 10 as before, and this is the last time that you will be asked for some materials that need a gatherer. So once you've obtained the 10 foxflower, you can turn that into the blacksmith. Yet again, another little run around various NPCs in Dalaran to set you up with using this herb to create flux for the welding of the pieces together. Unfortunately, it means having to go to a gnome, but it won't be the last time we have to do that. Damn Blizzard. And then you'll be sent back on your merry way to another zone for another couple of quests. So the second zone you will be going to is High Mountain. It's my favourite from the point of view of landscapes, and you will be going to the very top of it. Now just a little word of warning, if you're not levelling in this zone, you haven't explored it yet, don't try and go directly from Thunder Totem to where you appear to need to go. In actual fact, you sort of have to go around the mountains to the left as we look at it now, and find your way around there to the very top of High Mountain, where you're looking for a Tauran blacksmith. Now you don't have to go particularly far and wide once you've made it here. Mostly this quest involves picking up scraps of metal off the floor, heating them up in a forge nearby, and then forming them into something else. So you do that a few times and go back to him, and he agrees to teach you an upgraded version of some gauntlets, the pattern to which you already know. More about upgrades later. So then you go to another NPC who wants you to find a hammer that was stolen by some mobs nearby from her late father. The mob you need is quite deep in some caverns nearby, so you have to fight through a few mobs to get to it. You'll take it back to her. She's very grateful. Teaches you upgraded version of leg plates. Again, more on that later. and then you are dispatched back to Dalaran to your master again. So we've now done with High Mountain. You can see there's not very much time needed to be spent in each of the zones, and you can also see how easy it would be to actually blast through all the blacksmithing quests if you wanted to early on. Now when you go back to Dalaran this time, there's the same to-in and fro-in, same sort of making things in a little RP scene, but you actually learn a pattern that is very interesting and might be the reason why you decide to do these quests early on rather than just as and when you happen to go to the zones naturally. Of course, it'll be up to you. It's the ability to craft something that will increase your mounted movement speed on the Broken Isles, where blacksmiths get an extra bonus for using these as well. More of that at the end of the video. So the third zone we're sent to is Val Shirar, to Blackrook Hold in the northwest. But don't worry, we don't have to go into the dungeon itself, but this one will take a little while. There's a certain amount of killing mobs with random drops to do, and you might be tempted to do the bonus objective while you're there as well. This particular quest line involves defeating the spirit of an ancient elf smith, who then, after you've knocked some sense into him, invites you back to his shop. He sends you out to gather some materials from the nearby ghosts, as well as a hammer he's lost. They're really bad at keeping track of their hammers, these smiths, I'm noticing. And once you've gathered the hammer and the other materials that you'll need to kill the ghosts in this area for, he teaches you an upgraded pattern again, and also allows you to take his research back to the blacksmith in Dalaran. And it is at this point where the quest line takes a tragic turn for the worse, because unlike in the previous visits to Dalaran where we're sent to talk to various people, usually including like a gnome, we are now actively sent out to hire a gnome. And just to underline how ridiculous these creatures are, it insists on being paid in sweets. So you buy the sweets and bribe the ridiculous creature with them, and then we have to now have a gnome in the blacksmithing area. So once you've got over the initial shock of this, again a little bit more roleplay, pretending to make stuff things, and we learn another upgraded pattern, and it is at this point that the next quest we get is for Sarama. Now Sarama is a level 110 zone, so we can't get there while leveling, so if you're completing these quests while leveling, this is where the end of it would be. So the laystone hoof plates, these do not cost a lot of resources. You're going to need laystone ore for them, so you will need access to that. And they create a stack of 20 of these items that you can use to give yourself a 20% increased mount speed while on the Broken Isles. Now, the effect is quadruple for blacksmiths. Doesn't mean to say we get to ride at 80%. What it means is the duration. So for a normal person, the duration is 2 hours, which is decent enough. For a blacksmith, it's 8 hours. And it doesn't matter, it's not for a particular mount, so it's just a buff on you. So you can use whatever mount and get the 20% movement speed. Now if that sounds like something that will be really good for leveling, it might be a reason to get through these quests quite quickly. Of course you may decide you're not that bothered by it, in which case you might just decide you'll do the quests as and when. Maybe you'll decide to do it in the same order, so maybe that means that you will level up through Asuna first and then go to High Mountain and finally to Val Shirar. You'll notice there's no quest for Stormheim for blacksmiths, but don't worry about that, because in actual fact, if you're doing all the zones as you level up anyway, you will finish with a full zone not needed anyway, so that works out nicely. Of course, you may just decide to level wherever you please and wait to level 110 to do these quests, and of course that's entirely up to you. But it is probably worth going through some of the other patterns you can get as well. So while I was questing, I got a wheel drop, Demon Steel Stirrups. Now, these are a bit like the item we were just talking about that increase your movement speed, except this time it allows you to interact with things. It's not necessarily terribly clear from the tooltip in your blacksmithing tab, but when you make the items it makes it quite clear it's for interacting with objects without being dismounted. So you can see there it doesn't stop me if I just put these on, and then if I try and buff myself, for example, I can see that it won't allow me to do that while mounted. So will it allow me to engage in combat while mounted? No. So that will dismount you as normal, so it's not becoming really overpowered. So it is literally, as it says, it is for allowing you to interact with objects. These might be objects you need to click on for a quest. It might be treasure chests. You can open treasure chests while mounted and you will not come off your mount. It doesn't allow you to go into buildings where you wouldn't normally be allowed to mount. It doesn't allow you to do anything else. It is simply that. You can use them, however, at the same time as the other hoof plates that give you the mounted movement speed. So it isn't that one overwrites the other. You can have both active at one time as well. But it's, especially while you're leveling, Demon Steel is not easy to come across, and it's not going to be cheap, I imagine, when Legion goes live. So I wouldn't plan on using these while leveling, unless it's like your 10th alt and everything's really cheap by then. You can also get some patterns from the reputation vendors. There's 4 reputation vendors in the leveling zones. You can get items such as be able to craft a relic, although the materials, certainly at this point, are hideously expensive. So again, it's probably more like the sort of thing you will be crafting for alts that are coming after you or to sell on the auction house. You can also get access to rank 3 epic items, but you can't buy these until you've learned the previous ranks for these. So they're not really relevant while leveling either. So if we have a look at the patterns you will actually have got while you've completed these quests. What were these quests for? Well, it was for armor that is item level 700. So while you're leveling, not all that useful to you. If you are starting Legion having played through WoD, of course, it is very likely you've already got gear that's at least 700 item level. If not, you will probably have acquired this in the first few levels on the Broken Isles anyway. So what's it for? Well, one issue that has come up on forums, and is an obvious enough issue, is it's alright for people who've been playing through Warlords of Draenor, but what about people who are going to come later, or maybe some of your alts that you level during Legion? You get to level 100 by questing through Draenor, and what's your item level? Probably about 600, maybe not even that. Now, it's a tough ask to get you to kill mobs on the Broken Isles with an item level of 600. The pre-made characters we've been getting have item level 680, and that is more than fine. However, it would be a big ask, I think, especially if it's new players who maybe don't know the game as well, to compete with that 600 item level gear. In steps the crafters with this cheap to produce, it does not cost a lot of resources, 700 item level gear. Unlike in WoD, you are not restricted to 3 items. You can wear as much as you like. Put it on the auction house, it may sell for a bit. I'm not saying we're going to make a fortune from it, because of course there may be a great many blacksmiths putting it out there, and to begin with there probably won't be a great deal of demand for it, who knows, but perhaps later on there'll be a little bit as it picks up. So now we come on to the ranks. What are these ranks all about? For the particular armor that we've been learning through these quests, put simply, it just means that the amount of ore required to craft them, or the amount of materials, because some of them require some other materials as well, is less. At rank 2 you need less materials, and at rank 3 you need even less, and that is simply what it is. For other items the ranks could mean other things as well later on, but that will be covered when I've explored that a little bit more. Finally, the blacksmithing vendor in Dalaran has the remaining patterns that you'll need to be able to upgrade all of those armor pieces to rank 2. Now what we can see here, if I just show you how much of a difference it makes, so we can see the rank 1 arm guards I've got here, it costs 18 laystone ore. As soon as I learn the pattern, it now only costs 13, so you can see the savings you make there. You can also purchase a book that will allow you, if you cancel your blacksmith if you stop being a blacksmith and learn another profession, but then change your mind and want to switch back to blacksmithing later on, you purchase this book and it will give you all the patterns back that you learnt via the quest. It doesn't allow you to learn any old patterns that you had stored, but it does at least allow you to learn the Legion ones that you got through questing. And of course you can also purchase the new flux for Legion if you've done the quest to learn that as well, which at this point of course you will have done, and you need that in some recipes as well, as we can see here. So that should cover everything you'll need to know about blacksmithing while leveling up until you get to Sarama itself. So this is the first part. As I say, I'll be putting out a second part and potentially a third part as well, depending on how much stuff there is still to learn before the launch of Legion. But if you've got any questions regarding this bit, feel free to put in the comments below. And of course, don't forget, if you found the video useful, to like, comment and subscribe, especially if you want to see further content. I'll be putting out videos of other professions as well in time, so keep checking back. Once I put a few more out, I'll put them into a playlist to gather them together as well, and put a notification at the start of the video. So until next time, I'll see you later.